Nothing ever feels enough, not the achievements, not the money, not the relationships, not even the moments you once dreamed of reaching. And the strangest part is that from the outside, everything might look fine. Maybe even impressive. Yet internally, there's a quiet dissatisfaction that never fully leaves. A sense that something is missing, even when nothing obvious is wrong. This feeling doesn't come from failure. It comes from chasing fulfillment in places where it was never meant to live. Think about the last time you reached a goal you were obsessed with. Maybe it was financial stability, a new job, a relationship, or personal recognition. While you were chasing it, life felt intense, purposeful, almost electric. You told yourself, when I get there, I'll finally relax. And then you got there. For a brief moment, it felt good, maybe even amazing. But soon after, the feeling faded. The mind moved the finish line. A new desire appeared. A higher standard. A new comparison. And suddenly, what once felt like everything became just normal. This cycle isn't accidental. It's built into how most people are taught to seek happiness. We're conditioned to believe fulfillment is something external, something to be acquired, achieved, or validated by others. The problem is that desire has no memory. It doesn't remember how badly you wanted what you now have. Once it's familiar, it loses its emotional charge. And the mind immediately asks for more. That's why accumulation never satisfies. You don't suffer because you lack things. You suffer because desire keeps rewriting the definition of enough. Look closely at modern life. Endless upgrades. Faster success. Bigger goals. Even self-improvement has become another race. There's always a better version of yourself to chase. And while growth itself isn't the issue, tying your sense of worth to constant improvement creates a quiet form of exhaustion. You're never allowed to arrive. Never allowed to rest. Never allowed to be complete. Here's a simple but uncomfortable example: scrolling through social media after a long day. You're not looking for anything specific. Yet every image, every success story, every highlight subtly tells your nervous system you're behind. Even inspiration can become poison when it constantly reminds you that your current life isn't enough as it is. Over time, this creates a low-grade dissatisfaction that becomes your baseline. You stop asking why you want what you want. You just keep wanting. And the more you get, the emptier it feels. This isn't because you're ungrateful. It's because gratitude can't coexist with endless comparison. And comparison thrives in a world that never stops showing you what you could have instead of what you already do. If this perspective resonates so far, take a moment to support the channel by subscribing and leaving a like. It helps this message reach people who may be stuck in this same cycle without realizing it. What's important to understand is this: the feeling that nothing is enough is not a personal failure. It's a structural problem. A mismatch between how the mind is conditioned to seek fulfillment and where fulfillment actually comes from. And until that mismatch is exposed, no amount of success will resolve it. At some point, the mind stops asking for more because it needs more, it asks for more because it doesn't know how to be still. Desire becomes a habit, not a necessity. And habits, when left unexamined, quietly shape an entire life. This is where many people get confused. They assume the constant feeling of not enough means they're ambitious, driven, or meant for something greater. Sometimes that's true. But often, it's something else entirely: an avoidance of presence. Because being fully present with what is can feel unsettling when your identity is built around becoming something else. Notice how rare it is to enjoy a moment without mentally narrating it. A meal isn't just a meal, it's compared to others. A vacation isn't just rest, it's documented, measured, optimized. Even relationships are evaluated: is this enough? Could there be better? Am I settling? The mind turns life into a constant audit, and audits are never satisfying. They're designed to find gaps. Here's a quiet truth most people discover too late: the hunger for more often masks a deeper disconnection. Not from goals, but from meaning. When actions aren't rooted in values, achievements feel hollow. You climb, but there's no ground under your feet. So you climb again, hoping the next level will feel different. Consider someone who works endlessly, chasing financial security. They tell themselves peace will come once they reach a certain number. But when they get there, the fear doesn't disappear, it evolves. Now it's about maintaining, protecting, expanding. The finish line was never real. The anxiety just changed costumes. Or think about relationships. Many people don't leave because they're unhappy, they leave because they believe happiness exists somewhere else. Yet wherever they go, the same dissatisfaction follows. Not because the people are the same, but because the inner pattern is unchanged. Expecting someone else to fill an internal emptiness is an invisible burden that eventually collapses connection. Nothing ever feels enough when fulfillment is outsourced. This doesn't mean you should stop wanting things or abandon goals. The problem isn't desire itself. The problem is attachment to outcome as identity. When your sense of self depends on what you achieve, acquire, or receive, peace becomes conditional. And conditional peace is fragile. There's a moment, often after burnout, heartbreak, or disillusionment, when people begin to question the chase itself. They ask, why am I doing all this? That question doesn't come from failure. It comes from exhaustion. From realizing that the promised satisfaction keeps getting postponed. And here's where the shift begins. Not with renunciation, but with honesty. What if the reason nothing feels enough isn't because you lack something, but because you've never allowed yourself to feel complete without adding anything? If this is making you reflect, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Not as a habit, but as a conscious choice to support deeper conversations like this one. The mind will always propose the next thing. That's its nature. But you don't have to obey every proposal. Fulfillment begins when you learn the difference between movement and meaning. Between growth and grasping. There's a moment that arrives quietly, often without ceremony, when you realize the chase has been louder than your life. Not because ambition is wrong, but because you've been running without listening. This is where understanding finally settles in. Nothing ever feels enough when enough is always defined by what comes next. The mind was never designed to be satisfied by accumulation. It's designed to seek. That's its function. But when seeking becomes your identity, you lose the ability to inhabit your own life. You're always leaning forward, rarely standing where you are. And a life lived in permanent anticipation will always feel incomplete. Fulfillment isn't found by stopping desire, it's found by changing your relationship with it. The shift happens when you stop asking, what else do I need, and start asking, what am I already ignoring? Because often, what's missing isn't something new, it's attention. Think of how children experience joy. Not because they have more, but because they're present. A simple moment is enough because it's fully lived. Over time, we trade presence for prediction. We live ahead of ourselves. And in doing so, we abandon the only place satisfaction can exist, the present moment. This doesn't mean you lower your standards or give up on growth. It means you stop postponing wholeness. You let progress exist without turning it into proof of worth. You allow yourself to arrive, even temporarily, without immediately planning the next escape. When people say, I'll be happy when, they're unconsciously declaring that now is insufficient. Repeat that belief long enough, and even your best moments feel empty. Not because they lack value, but because you're not there to receive them. The most grounded people aren't those who achieved everything. They're the ones who learned how to stop turning life into a means to an end. They enjoy improvement without being consumed by it. They want more without being defined by lack. So the next time you feel that familiar dissatisfaction, the sense that nothing is enough, don't rush to fix it. Sit with it. Ask what it's protecting you from feeling. Ask what it's distracting you from noticing. That question alone can change the direction of a life. If this message resonated with you, this is the perfect moment to support the channel. Subscribe, leave a like, and help this perspective reach others who might be stuck in the same cycle of wanting without arriving. Enough isn't a number. It isn't a milestone. It isn't something you earn after suffering long enough. Enough is a state of awareness. And the moment you recognize that, life stops feeling like a constant negotiation and starts feeling like something you're finally allowed to inhabit. You don't need more to be whole, you need presence. And once presence returns, you'll realize, quietly, clearly, that the feeling you were chasing was never missing. You were.